et à tous. Mwiriwe ku bantu bose duteze amatwi kuri iyi Sunday chat y'uyu munsi. Amazina yanjye ni Kaliza Bita. Turabakiriye kuri iyi conversation y'uyu munsi Sunday chat. Twakiriye one of our own, Michel Habineza. Mwiriwe.
Mwiriwe neza.
Murakoze cyane. Okay, nk'uko dusanzwe tubimenyereye, buri cyumweru tugira Sunday chat. Now we're celebrating our own. Murakaza neza buri muntu wese uri hano kutureba. Nitahagira ikibazo mugira, nta kibazo mwagisha kuri Twitter handle yacu Peace and Love Proclaimers, cyangwa no kuri comments zo kuri YouTube on our channel. How are you, Mr. Jean-Michel Habineza?
I'm doing really well. You can just call me Jean-Michel. Yeah, I'm doing very well. Yeah, I'm doing very well. Yeah, enjoying the day. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? How was your day? How was your week?
My day was honestly, it's like one of those days where you wonder how the day went. So it was good. I was invited to some friend's house. I did, had a great lunch, and then this week was an easy week. It wasn't too crowded. I had gone for a trip last week, so I was back in the beginning of this week. So yeah, this week has been good.
Okay, that's amazing. So as we know, Jean-Michel, you were the co-founder of PLP. You were the founder of IDebate and other various activities. So starting off of being the co-founder of PLP, how does it make you feel? So that you have created such a good organization, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel amazing, because I would say when we started in 2007, a lot of it, if anyone had asked us, it's like, what do you want to do? I was like, we just want to change the world. Just want to change the world. We want to do great things. We want to do all this. But, I sometimes look back, and it's been more than 14 years. And I can't be but grateful for that, right? It's you look back and you say, oh, who would have thought that we'll be here, 14 years later? And actually, one of the other things is like, yes, I was one of the founders of PLP, but I was also the first president of PLP. So I led PLP from July 2007 up to August 2008, and that's when I had to go for my university studies. And this is something we started when I was 19 at that time, and now I'm 33. So I look back and I'm like, wow, I wish, it's you're older and maybe hopefully more wise, but you look back and I'm like, I'm so glad that we stayed consistent, in a sense that what was pushing us at 19 is still pushing us at 33.
That's really amazing. I bet everyone who is listening to us, they're now proud of you. Yeah, so apart from that, what can you tell us about yourself? Who is Jean-Michel? Are you married? Are you still single? There's some people in the comments who, know that.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. So I'm Jean-Michel. So an interesting thing is I have a twin sister who's called Micheline. And I also have two brothers who are also twins. So my mom gave birth twice to 4 kids. In real life, I think I'm a very curious person. So I'm always constantly just curious about life. I really enjoy life. I just enjoy life. And I to be honest with you, I'm always like, what can I do to feel like I'm living a life that makes a difference? And that has been amazing. But other than that, man, I'm just a simple guy who used to have a huge afro. Now he's losing his hair, but and no one will believe it, because I was like, everyone who knows me, I used to have a huge afro. Now my hair is growing. But yeah, so no, I'm not married. I usually say marriage is for the boring people, right?
Oh, how is that for the boring people?
No, it's for the boring people. For us, we're still cool. We're still enjoying life. We are not in prison yet. Yeah. So no, I'm not married. I'm not married. I don't have kids. I'm still out here enjoying life, trying to figure out life. And I didn't want to be in prison, which is, getting married. But yeah, that's the only way I tell myself. But
So
yeah, that's all about me.
okay. So if you're not married, are you single? Do you have a girlfriend?
No. I'm dating, which is surprising. Like nobody believes me. At some point, I'm like, was I like, everyone was like, this is a lost case, or like, what was that? It's like, no one believes me. But yeah, I'm dating a very beautiful girl and a nice girl. And yeah,
Mm. Since
so
when have you started dating that beautiful girl?
it's been now what, almost a year. Okay, I'll act as if I don't know. It's a year and about like 16 days. So yeah, so it's a year and almost a month.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Hope she'll be the potential candidate for your marriage.
I hope she's listening.
Yeah.
uh,
Okay, so you said you like enjoying life. So what kind of food do you like, to
what kind of
eat?
food?
Yes. What's your
I
favorite?
so I have two, like, I don't know why I like things that are not healthy. So I think for me the best meal, I love fries. I don't love fries and cheese are two things that I don't know how to get rid of. I just love those. But I also love my it's on one side it's that, but on the other side my favorite meal is ugari with peanut sauce and beans
Okay.
with
So,
some with some pepper on it. Amazing. As
so I
I
hope people who are um, looking at us right now, they should, in case they want to invite you for lunch or
please,
something, they should
uh,
maybe
please go
invite
ahead.
you.
Yeah, no, they should go ahead. Just please do it. Just do it because I would definitely love. I will join in. I'll join in and help you eat that food.
Okay, so that's amazing. So coming back, being the founder or among the founders of PLP, so what was your main aim, as in when you're going to create or when you're thinking of creating such an organization, you have a name. So what was your aim by then?
So I would say that one of the things that had happened. I mean, there are many things that we're passionate about. Like in that moment, I think there was this youthful excitement about wanting to make a difference, right?
Mm.
When you feel like I really want to do something that could be amazing. And to be honest with you, I've been lucky to live a life that was blessed, where certain struggles I did not know, and I thought, how do I then use the how do I use the chances that I've been given to give to others? How do we do that? So initially, when we started, we were doing a lot of things actually. So we were, first of all, we're paying school fees for a few street children who couldn't afford to go to school. I think at some point we were paying, at least when I was still there, we're paying about 40 of them to go to school. The second thing is we were also looking at the question of unity and reconciliation. How do we build society? How do we make sure that people live together? How do we reconcile? That was another thing that we were really looking at. And then we're also really interested in youth empowerment and youth, development. And part of what PLP was for that at that time was almost like a platform where anyone who had an idea could really try to do something. So I really feel like when we started, even though we were not quite clear in terms of like actual program, but there was this excitement about wanting to make a difference and wanting to do, like, it's almost like building a movement. Like if anyone knows us in those times, it's like, wow, it's we were, the oldest of us was Mark, and Mark was older than me by 2 months, right? So he used to be the oldest of us, but we were all 19, and you were leading hundreds and thousands of people who are all either within the same age range or younger than you. And no, and then we had to figure out how do we take that excitement into do something amazing. And we did a lot of things. We visited come on, Yisimba Orphanage. We were the first Rwandans actually, as a group, to visit that place. and we visited it. I always, weirdly enough, I always remember dates. So we visited it on the 3rd of August, 2007. And then in September 2007, we also visited Cepage. And we were giving, I think we brought like a lot of boxes of clothes and things, and we were giving all of that. And yeah, so for me, the excitement was there was just a lot of passion on wanting to do something with our lives and to do something that would be, that will make a change. And that's what all of us wanted to do. And, I was lucky to be among, some of the leaders who were doing it.
Okay, that's amazing. As you said, you created Peace and Love Proclaimers to create a change in the youth. So, as PLP members, are you saying that you're achieving that, or we still need to pull up our socks to reach that?
No, I mean, see, I think for me, the best thing that has happened is to look. There was a meeting maybe 2 months ago or something like that of PLP, and I came in and I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anyone. And for me, that made me so happy because it made me see that, when I look at the new leadership, Shema and others, I'm thinking these are guys that I don't know, and they're probably like 10 years younger than me, but they're moving and doing things that we started. And I think for me, there's nothing better for me is to think, wow, we built something that now can function even without us. And part of the thing with PLP, it's also understanding it's like, I think people undermine how much work it took to understand. It's like you're building a community of people that are all passionate about one thing and they have no money. They have no money, they have no resources. How do you keep them motivated? How do you keep them moving? And for me, I think we did the heavy lifting. Now, you guys take it to the next level and it excites me. I feel like there is new challenges that your generation is dealing with that we didn't have to deal with. And there's some things that you are going to deal with that we didn't have to deal with. And I'm just excited. I think there's nothing better in the world than just looking at something you built that is functioning without you and that it's actually doing even better than when you were there. I think it means we did something right, and I'm glad for that.
Oh, thank you on that one. So you were saying that we might face different challenges, but what were your challenges when you were creating such an organization?
First of all, again, we were 19, right?
Yes.
Nobody takes you seriously. Like nobody takes you seriously, for real. Like we used to wear things and guys are just like, hey, these ones are wearing their parents' clothes. So it was like nobody would take you seriously. So the first one was the fact that no one would take us seriously, right? And then the second one was also the fact that what we were trying to, so I think, for example, I'll give you an example of what to remember all of this. Like what the problem that Walk to Remember has now, I think it's a good problem. Because part of what people don't notice is that in 2007, when we started, people didn't attend commemoration events. Young people didn't attend commemoration events. When you went to talk about commemoration events, they would usually say, go and talk to ARG, right? Because Nibi Lutia, right?
Yeah.
And what we did, which we took a lot of hit, but what we did was to say, no, it's for everybody. And then we brought in everyone. Like some of the conversations that are happening now, like, when we were talking about how do we live together, all these things about, how do you call it, denial, all these things about reconciliation. We were doing it in 2009. Like we were doing it in 2009. Like these are projects that we were doing in 2009, 2008. And yeah, so some of those challenges is just you were having these, you're being bold somehow because you're saying no. When we talk of commemoration, everyone has to be there, and then when not only that, but then secondly is you are telling people things that they haven't seen. So we are telling guys, it's like we can go in the US, we can do this in all these places, and people are looking at you like you guys are fools. Like you guys are fools to even think that that is possible. But part of it was like that's the beauty of youth, right? It's like you're like it has to be done. It has to be done. And for me, I look and I'm like, we were honestly, we were just pioneering a lot of things. We're doing a lot of things that have not been done. And because of that, there's that frustration of it. But then now I'm glad. I'm like, when I look back and I'm like, well, we did it. Now, 15, 14 years later, everyone is coming on board and saying, this is new. It's like, no, we did that. We did that in 2008, 2007. But I'm glad. It means we're ahead and we're really moving. And that's what leadership is for me. And yeah, the challenges again. The one thing I loved about PLP in that, and I still think that even up to now, we have it. It's that mentality of like nothing cannot, like if you really want it, it will be done. Because for us, I can give you many stories. For those who are old, they will remember. Let me give you a few stories. So for example, the first walk we ever did never happened, right? Like it never happened. And it wasn't even like, it was the walk, I think that time it was a walk against, I think it was like AIDS or something like that. And the reason it never happened is we didn't know what to do. So we'll go there, and then we'll go in meetings, and then after that, the city of Kigali will be like, so do you have this? We're like, no. Do you have the permission? Like, no. Do you have this? No. So we're like, nothing. We didn't have anything, but we thought we were doing something. And then some of the projects you can ask a lot of the guys who might know. It's like Mark. There's another one called Ines, Joel, Nadi. So we had this thing where every day we'll wake up at 7. We'll be in town, and then everybody had to go drop letters at different places. And then we'll meet for lunch. And then when we meet for lunch, everyone is frustrated because they have refused to help us. And then we'll go. And then it used to be that, okay, guys, after the end of the day, we'll come back again, same thing. We'll share a plate of fries. And then at the end of the day, we'll come back again, same thing. And then what will happen will be that at the end of the day, Mark will be like, okay, everyone, let's go home, hit walls, hit everything, get angry, shout whatever you want. And then tomorrow, we'll be back to work. Yes. We'll be back to work. And that was the whole thing, right? That was I would say that's what was pushing us in PLP. I don't know, we were on drugs. I feel like we were on drugs because there was this passion. We felt like nothing was impossible. Like if I tell you some of the things that some of these guys did, you'll be like, like literally sometimes you go in a ministry. Like, so sometimes you go to a minister meeting and he's like, looked at the letter and then you get in and he's like, are you the one I'm meeting? You're like, yeah. He's like, no, I don't have time. And then he goes, he leaves you there. Right? Or you get in meetings and then there will always be people who will be like, why? Like I remember there used to be a guy called Karim. And Karim was known for one thing. Karim was relentless. He was annoying. So I remember we wanted to work with the Commission of Unity and Reconciliation. Karim went there every single day. They're like, he will go there and sit. Then they're like, hey, oh yeah, if it's that, then do our business. But that was it. That was PLP at that time. It was like nothing is impossible. And when I look at, where we are, I'm like, I'm so glad we pushed, because that's what made it. That's what made it work. The fact that we're all like, oh yeah, this has to happen.
Okay, that's really amazing. So it was really tough for you guys to get permissions, but I understand you guys kept on being motivated to make sure you get all the permissions and make sure your goals were made or accomplished. Yep. So thank you for that. So we are welcoming people who just joined us right now. You're most welcome. Feel at home. In case you get a question or you have a question, you can drop it on our Twitter handle, Peace and Love Proclaimers, or you can just leave it in the comment box here on YouTube. So coming back on the PLP, Peace and Love Proclaimers organization, it had a project in 2009 of Walk to Remember that you created or founded. So there's some people who know that Walk to Remember is there, and even now it's been it took place in many countries. So far it's 25 countries over the world, and even you find many dignitaries join it, like His Excellency President Paul Kagame, the First Lady, the Foreign Secretary of the UK, William Hague. So, what would you tell the youth to, like, what was your purpose when you thought of creating Walk to Remember, and what is it all about in general?
Yeah, I'd say when we look at the way the walk started, I think at that time it was Mark who was the leader. It was Mark who was the leader, and at that point I was in the US and I was doing my studies. But as when we one of the aims of the Walk to Remember was, how do we create an event that brings together all young people, right? And it used to have, actually now it's less complex than the way it used to be before. Before, there used to be a whole campaign before that, which will show movies, and then there will be mobilization campaigns when you go in schools and talk about these different things. And then the Walk to Remember will be the final stage of all of that. And so in 2009, when we started, I think it went from Saint Famille down to the memorial, right? And then I think it was the 2010 Walk to Remember. That was the first time that the president came. And then honestly, it just went like to the next level. And actually, let me even tell you an interesting story. It's like how the president came, right? So they were selling some wristbands. They were selling wristbands in UTC, and then the president came to Nakumat. That time Nakumat was there. So when the president came to Nakumat, one of the things that happened was one of the guys, Karim, was like, yo, guys, I think I'm going to ask the president to buy like a wristband. And then everyone was like, you're crazy. You're just mad. And he's like, but that was Karim. He's like, I'm just going to go. And then he goes, and then he asked the security guard, and the security guard is like, just go in front, pass in front. And then he went and he tried to sell him. I think the president said, I don't have money or something like that. He's like, but you have to come. Why don't you come for this? And then the president said, okay, give it to my secretary, I'll come. And then Karim was like, Mr. President, you are known to keep your word. So can I have your word for this? And then he was like, yeah. And then he did come. And then when he came, it went off. And then we had someone called Kate. Kate was she was the one coordinating in 2010. So it was Kate, Dennis, Dadi, Angel, Mahoro, Malaika, and all of those. And Kate took it from, and then, there were many others. And then they took it from it being like a local one to like an East African one. And then mine was also organizing the one in the US. So slowly it was one thing on top of the other, on top of the other. Then it just went big. And I think that when you hear people criticize it, I say, yeah, it's easy. Again, it's always easier to criticize, because then part of it was like, no, but think there's no event in this country that brings as many young people. Now there is a past or any other, but there was no event that brought as many young people to commemoration events. And I'm like, that in itself is amazing. Like, that's amazing, because part of what they, again, people are not seeing is, see what we're doing here. We're getting people not only to come, but then secondly, internationally, we're getting a lot of people to care about something that they would not care about otherwise, right? Like, and all of that is done with a few hundred kids who none of them is paid. None of them is paid. They're doing it because they're passionate about it. I think that's amazing. Like, I think we usually say that's dope. But, and part of building that is you, of course, there are certain things you can do better. I think sometimes, like, when the crowds become too much, like, it's hard to control. And it's, of course, everyone wants to go to the cool thing. And of course, and nothing can be perfect. You just gotta figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Yeah, so I hope now anyone who had questions regarding Walk to Remember understood the main purpose of Walk to Remember. So yeah, well, that's really amazing. But I have a question. Before you thought, when you're 19, before you thought of creating PLP, was that your main dream, or you had another dream? As in,
I mean, let me tell you,
yeah.
do you know when people say, I was just on vibes? That was me. Vibes on vibes, like nothing. I was a cool. Like, let me tell you, I was cool. I was cool. I was like, I had an afro. I used to sing. I used to be like, I used to be cool.
Oh,
So for
it's the
me, when you ask
same.
me, what do you want to be? Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I used
Could
to sing.
you do a little bit of a cappella?
No, see, I have a problem with my voice now. My voice
No,
is like,
no, you can try a little bit, no
eh?
one is going to laugh at you.
No, it's okay. I'll try. I'll try. Actually, I even sang at the first PLP event. I think it's like, there's a place in your heart, and I know that it is love. Yeah, something like that. So I used
Okay,
to,
and then you're saying you have a problem in your throat.
yeah, I just still have a problem. Still have a problem. I used to have a problem. But yeah, so for me, I was all vibes. I was all vibes. I was all like chilled. And then I think for me, man, PLP gave me purpose. It gave me this excitement about life that I had never felt. I was a person who, you ask yourself, what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do in my life? But I think PLP just opened my eyes. I mean, working with those kids opened my eyes to a reality that I had no idea. I'll tell you the truth. We used to live in Yarocharama, and I used to go to Green Hills. So from there, like, my world was sort of like small, but it was also like, looking good. And then all of a sudden, my eyes were open to so many things, and my life has never been the same. I was the kids that we paid for. Actually, now, when I look back, one of them finished university. I still meet some of them. Like, I think one of them has a kid. Like, they're 15 years later. I mean, they're now like 26, 27, and I look back and I'm like, that's what gave me purpose. Like, it gave me this purpose of like, what if we did something amazing? What if we did something amazing? And from that time, it's like it hasn't changed. Like, I'm saying, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. But in this moment right here, right now, I'm just feeling like I want to do as much as I can to make a difference, as much as I can to really feel like I'm living a life that is, thoughtful, impactful, and purposeful. And yeah, it's just been, I don't know. Before that, I would lie. You know how people are like, yeah, when I was a kid, I thought I was going to be this, this, this. I would be lying. When I was a kid, I was just a cool, dumb kid. Like, I would just not, like, I would just vibes. But then now I'm like, yo, like, like, anyone who knows me when we were young, they look at me like, what happened? Like, what happened to you? Like, you
Right.
became serious. I'm like, God is good. It's like, even me, I don't even know. I don't even know what happened. But whichever ways, I'm glad it did.
Well, that's really amazing because you're really, I bet you're really helping people out there who feel like they're lost, who don't know what to do. Just sit around, something will come up, and then you'll be as successful as our dear Jean-Michel.
Yeah, hopefully. Even better.
Yeah.
You should do better than me.
Yes. Okay, so I'm again welcoming people who just joined us right now. Today we have Mr. Jean-Michel Habineza. So keep being with us until the end of this conversation. If you have a question, drop it on our Twitter handle, Peace and Love Proclaimers, and also in the comment box on YouTube channel. So, well, that was really amazing about your work, I mean, your journey to create Peace and Love Proclaimers, though you do want to sing for us, but we heard that you really have a good voice. Yeah, so what was your favorite song, by the way?
I don't know. Like, for a really long time, my favorite song used to be "Heal the World" by Michael Jackson. That used to be my favorite song. Now I don't know. I don't know what my favorite song is. No, I don't know. I have too many.
Well, okay. Well, if you have too many, can you give us like two or three?
Okay, so I love gospel music. So one of my favorite one is "From the Inside Out" by Hillsong. And then I also love this song. What is it called? I Love My Life. Um, I love my life. I love my life. Yeah, I love that one. I love that
Okay.
one. Yeah. So I think those two. Yeah, those two are like my two favorite ones.
Okay. Okay, that's really amazing. So you're also known to be the founder of IDebate, and so could you just tell us in brief what is IDebate?
So iDebate is a debate program. So we work with secondary students and we teach them the art of public discourse. That means we teach them how to make arguments, how to debate, how to disagree constructively. We also teach them public speaking and communication skills. So we currently work with 35 schools, but starting in September, we're working with about 115. And then we've been functioning for the last 8 years.
Mhm.
Nine years since 2012. And yeah, so that's what we've been doing, and we're building debate leagues, we're building debate competitions, and we're building debate education for secondary students here.
Okay, that's really good. So, there is this article of IDebate, and you mentioned that when you created IDebate, you wanted youth to interact differently. What did you mean by that?
So part of when you look at when you study a lot of history and a lot of societies, you find that one of the problems in our society was this idea of a monolithic society, this idea that there is only one way of thinking about things. So you look at there is everything is just has to go in one way, from the top to the bottom, by the middle, everyone has to think in that one way. And also the problem is the blind obedience to authority, right? This idea that when the person in authority tells you something, you do it, right? And that is from the home, because the dad says, as long as you're in my house, you do as I say, to the teacher, to all of that. So what if we're able to create an environment where people can actually are allowed to view the world from different stands? Like I think sometimes we as humans can be so intolerant of differences, but differences are good, right? And so for me, what we usually say at iDebate is that conflict is inherent to human beings, right? Like we're always going to be in conflict, but violence is a choice. So we can disagree and see the world from different stands, but we have to learn how to engage one another. And I think
Yes.
debate does it better than anything else. It teaches you to view the world from multiple places, but it also teaches you to you know, learn that someone who disagrees with you is now your enemy, right? Like someone who views the world from a different stance is now your enemy. And it's a way of creating critical thinking, which is the ability of weighing different sides and different views before making a decision, right? And I think that is lacking. That is lacking in our society. And I think if we create that environment, it's a more productive. We don't resort to violence to solve conflict.
Okay, so since you have created IDebate since 2012, so the aim you had, do you see some change, or you see that there is a long way? You still have to move.
Man, the work of change never ends. It always feels like you get to one point and you're like, yes, we have arrived, and then the moment it's like, nope, nope,
Yeah.
psych, never. But part
Sorry.
of the part of it is like celebrating the small things. So for example, like I personally in 2019 we had a debate camp, and I remember we had 420 participants. And one of my friends with whom we have worked for a long time, Nelson, I looked at him and I said, wow, I never thought we'll get to a day where 400 parents are trusting you with their kids for you to teach their kids how to disagree with them. Like that, in my sense, I'm like, wow. So, but it's now that I'm feeling like we're getting started. Like before, it was convincing people, like because people would think, "Ah, nguri kwigisha abana bacu kwibirara, nguri kwigisha
Yeah.
abana bacu kutubaha." Like,
Yes.
or wow, no, you all have to go. You have everyone has to look at things in this narrow place. But then now, 9 years later, people are seeing that, oh, this is actually like you look at, and that's why I'm so glad I did PLP before, because I knew that people in the beginning are like, oh, this will never happen. Oh, this is not, they'll fight you. And then at some point they'll be like, Ekonomoji. Hmm? Yeah, and there's a song I love. Now I remember what song I love is the Marijibu Jamu Vijarajazo Vikaze. Abantu bakakuvugangura jahehe. There's a part that says ngiyo uri mu bibazo ngo abantu baraguseka. Barakuvuga. Donc basenga ngo ntuzabivamo. Maze ngo wabivamo bakavuga ngo twaragusengeye cyane. That is the society. That's the society that we live in. So for me, part of it though is the excitement of knowing that there are milestones. Like there's a way that we get. There are certain places we have been. You know, there's certain places that we are, and I'm so glad. Like I'm so glad. I'm so excited, and I think when you have seen the small steps, then it makes you believe that you're able actually to have a bigger thing. I say, and Rich, I'll tell you just for me, my dream is always like again. I don't think I'm. My dream is to see the day that we can debate against and a kid from Rwanda can debate against a kid from DC, from Los Angeles, from Singapore, and they're as intellectually sharp and as articulate as they are. And for me, it's like the moment they feel they have the right to be in there, my work is done. And I see snippets of it. Like I sometimes sit and I'm like, I see some small snippets of it, and that gets me so excited because it's sometimes you see some things and you're like, wow, like we like the African champions right now is Rwanda. Like there was a ranking that came out a few days or something ago. The second best team on the continent in terms of debate is Rwanda. And then the other one is South Africa. But South Africa has had, sometimes you don't count them as Africa because they've just had all these things for so long, right? And then you also look at them like the amount of debates that we have had and with some of the best. I'm like, there's something there. We haven't seen it yet. I
meant to that to happen. Yes. So coming to those awards, what you want to achieve, you received in 2018 Rollins Cup. What is it all about, Rollins Cup? How were you feeling when they gave you such an award? And by the way, congratulations.
Thank you. Well, it's not me, it's the team, but sometimes the good thing with being a coach is that if things go well, you say it's you, but if it goes bad, you say it's the team. They didn't do as you told them, But so Rollins Cup is an international competition that is done between a team from Rollins College, which is in Florida, and a team from the international community. So the cup has been won by by China, by Oxford, by Cambridge, and we were the only African team to ever contest for that. But then we're also the only African team to have won it. And I'll tell you, it was probably one of those moments in my life where I'm like, thank you, God. Thank you that I get to experience this because it was so beautiful to see something. First of all, to see Kelly and Mecca, who were the two guys who were debating. You look at them and you have worked with them from the time they were, in high school. And then you see them speak there and I had a small contribution in that. But what I saw in them, people are now seeing it. And that's like better. Knowing like I knew from the time they were 15, 14 that they would be amazing. And then I see them 5, 6 years later and I see them do amazing. It's like, wow, what a life, what a grace, like what an amazing chance that I get to experience that. It's nothing beats that.
I was really amazed by getting to know that you were like world renowned for Oxford and Cambridge universities. So I bet that's a really good achievement as an IDebate founder.
Yeah, I'm excited about it, but I want more. I think we can do so much more, and I look and I really want to prove it. I really want to prove it. Mine is to prove. I want to prove that it can be done, and I think that was for me. My thing is like I know that if we invest in these young guys, if we do all the work, like amazing things can happen. And I always say, don't take my word. Just look at all the things like these kids, when you invest in them, look at what they've done. And currently, we're just getting started. Yeah, my goal with we have to do it. We have to do it, and it has to be done because it's only when we allow for us, like our job. Let me tell you the truth, Rita. Like our job for us is, I always say that my job is to just like push through, right? Like it's to push through. I think I'm gifted in that way, right? Just create and then leave it to other people to run it. But they have to run and do better than we did. Like me, those things of like, hey, I'm the guy, and then everyone has nah. I want them to do better than me. Like they have to do way more. And for me, what I'm saying is setting the standard high. Because like we are no longer competing at the local level. We have to do well. And internationally, it has to be that the moment a kid from not, one thing I don't want. It's like this idea that if you want to hide something from an African, you put it in the book, or this idea that no, like Rwandans are very, yeah, we're good, but we can't think. Like really, we can't create thinkers at the world level. Like really, I was like, oh yeah, that can't happen. That no, we're going to do it just to show it can be done, honestly.
Yes.
Sorry, I talk a lot.
On that point, I wanted to ask, since you were given a lot of awards, including the Rollins Cup, you're known on Oxford and Cambridge universities. Like, did it create, did many people around the world come to talk to you regarding your organization, if you can open it in their countries? Were any other people interested in what you've done?
I mean, we currently work. I mean, for me, my thing is it takes time to build an organization. It takes time. It takes work. It's just a long time. So part of it is like, yes, we got some people. I mean, we work with so many. I mean, go on our YouTube, you will see us, debating. We have kids debating against other universities around the world and all of that, and it's great. And we are also building. I've been working and talking with different, like other guys from different African countries to, who want to build or who are building debate programs and hey, whatever we can help with. But my dream is going to be, I'll tell you a secret, but it's on public, but it's going to be, within the next 5 years, I would have built enough and I'm going to leave it to younger guys to lead. And then, we take on a bigger challenge, which will be, how do we then create IDebate Africa? That means in different country in Africa, because I think we have talent. Like we have, like I see the amount of, like sometimes I sit with these kids. I'm like, first of all, you guys are weird. Like, why are you smart when you're 14? Like, are you just supposed to be like talking to girls, like singing or something? I don't know, I don't know. But anyways, hey, it is what it is. But I see how naturally smart they are, and I'm like, wow, if we can create the environment and create the resources, wow, like they can do amazing, right? Like they can do amazing things. So for me, it's like yeah, we'll work with other people, and in a few years. Right now, I'm just currently building and trying to figure out how to build an organization that can now go national. But have you noticed how I give longer answers? It's problems.
Excuse me, I didn't get that. You just
Yeah.
said.
No, I was saying that. Have you noticed how I give longer answers? It's like
No, that shows the way. That's really good. That's really amazing. Makes us understand very well what we asked, and yeah, so that is okay.
Okay, I'm
So
glad it's not a problem.
yeah, so thank you for answering all those questions, and telling us your journey in IDebate and the way you're proud of reaching where you are right now. So we are welcoming any other person who just joined us right now. You're most welcome. In case you guys have questions, drop them on our Twitter handle, Peace and Love Proclaimers, or put them in the comment box on our YouTube channel. So now we're going to go for a short break. We'll come back and we answer all the questions you guys had. Thank you. Stay with us till the end of this conversation. thank you so much for being with us again. I hope we're together till now. So we are welcoming questions either on Twitter, our Twitter handle, or if you have shared them in our comment in the comment box. So we have Amy Awayo on Twitter quoting the beginning of the amazing conversation. You kept saying enjoyment, enjoyment. What is enjoyment for you at our young age?
What was the enjoyment for me at that young age?
Yes.
I don't know, man. Like, we used to do all the things that young people do. So go to parties, you know. At that point, I was also quite romantic. So I used to do songs, write things. And
Okay.
yeah, we used to go to a lot of parties, sneak out sometimes. And yeah, and do all the fun things, sing at, I was in acting, I was in rugby, I was in all sorts of things. Yeah, around that
So
time.
you were never caught when you sneaked out.
I was caught once. I was caught
So what
once.
happened?
That day it was
Was
my brothers. We usually had to go out and come back at a certain time. But then my brothers just get on vibes. Then we came home late and my mom found us. And from there we were punished.
okay. Well, that wasn't the day, apparently. So again, Amy Abayo on Twitter said, what are your insights on the work to remember future challenges, especially in this pandemic time? What can you say about it not happening these past 2 years? And future hope for it to be reconduct, reconducted? Thank you.
I mean, I'm really hoping so first of all, it's sad it didn't happen, but I also think that the online gives us an opportunity to reach more people than we could have. And I'm really hoping it continues to grow. And part of it is to make sure that we still keep we don't have a mission drift. So it means that we still do it for the right reasons and for the same reasons. Because the problem with something when it gets that big is now there's too many other agendas and too many other things that it becomes hard. But I really hope that it continues to grow, and you guys have a lot of very smart guys who run that, and very amazing people who continue. So I really hope it goes to the next level and continues to grow.
Okay, thank you. So Modest Shaka said, I want to ask Jean-Michel, what is the biggest challenge he thinks young people are facing now, and what could be the solution?
The biggest challenge. I would say one thing. I mean, there's too many things. I mean, I always say there's always a loss of. I mean, purpose is very important. I think when you have no idea to why you're doing something, and you lose that, it's hard. But I think one other thing though that is important is that I think young people have a lot of inspiration. They have a lot of like role models, but very few have mentors, right? So they have people that they look out to and they say, I want to be like that. But they have very few people who are willing to say, now let me walk with you on a daily basis. And the problem with that is like, people call it like ageism. Oh, I hate ageism because it feels like whenever, if you're a young person and wanting to do that, no one will take you seriously. That is everywhere, all the time. That will continue to be. But part of it, one of the things that I really hope we get to is to have guys who are a little bit older walk with, those who are a little bit younger. And that means, being able to teach them what they know, because otherwise it's just like you're doing the same thing. So it's like, it makes no sense because you're doing the same errors and you're doing the same stuff. And for me, part of what I hope is having a lot of people who will invest in young people. There's a lot of great talent. There's a lot of great talent, but very few people who are investing. And investing, it doesn't mean money. Let me tell you, it means sitting down at lunchtime, hearing all their dreams and challenging them, and sitting down and teaching them what you know, opening doors and all of that. It's exactly that, because the reality is when you're young, which is what we were when we started PLP, you think you understand everything until life hits you hard. And then when life hits you hard, you're like, my Lord. And you're like, oh yeah, I would stop you. But you need people who are been a little bit ahead who can tell you, by the way, this will happen, but don't worry about it. And yeah, but there's also a lot of issues. I mean, of course, there's a frustration of life caused by the lack of skills, the lack of opportunities, the education system that doesn't prepare them adequately, and all of those other things are there too. But I just think those ones, in my opinion, are what is most important.
Okay, thank you for that. So we should make sure the people who are elder than us should join the younger ones so as you can create a family to teach the younger people to develop themselves. So I think that's the biggest challenge that people should think that the siblings or other people who are younger than them really needs them to boost them. So thank
Yeah.
you for that. So Amy Abayo on Twitter again, Cutted, what is or was your relationship with Mark Guamaka back and now that you have reached what was needed as the firm foundation PLP has now? What was any three pillars of your relationships or friendship with him, and if that is still genuine even now?
Yeah. I would say, first of all, like Mark, we met I'd say a few months before starting PLP. And by the way, one of the ways that it happened was we were supposed to go do a song at CLA, at church. And then when we got there, I think the room was locked or something like that. We couldn't do it. So we went home to our place, which wasn't very far. And then we started talking about, and then we started talking about our dreams. Like we just started and we're like, yo, we really want to do this. And then we were like, okay, let's actually do this. So that was how it started. And then and that's how we got to, and then we worked together. I would say that one of the things about our relationship then, so I was the president before and he was the coordinator. And then what ended up happening, there was someone else so I did an error just because I was 19. I think I put someone who ended up not being good for the organization, and then Mark came. So and then that person really just destroyed everything that we had built, and then Mark came. So I would say that one of the things that Mark did at that time, honestly, it was he was able to revamp PLP and he kept it moving, right? And so yeah, so that was how we built it, and of course we continued working together. I would say that some of the pillars is that Mark and I are very different, which means that means we also have tete a tete, like we bump into each other, and which is normal because part of it is like we're all just passionate about PLP, and then we're different, so it means that we'll hit with one another. But I've always respected his kind of leadership because there's certain things that he can do that I can't. Like Mark has this thing of hitting the wall and just going, right? Which I think that it's really a great skill. And so yeah, so I think he was longer, and I think he held it for quite a bit, at least when I was in uni and all of that. And one of the things about with time, let me tell you, the problem with time is you grow and relationships sort of fade. You see each other here and there, but relationships don't stay as much as possible. So we meet. I see him once in a while, or now he has also, the thing is, I've seen those people when now they have kids. Now you feel like they are in a different thing. That is Mark for you. Now we can't talk. Now we are boys. Then he's a father. Yeah, but it still is there. It still is there.
Okay, that's amazing. So we also have Blaise Mwari on YouTube. He said, I wish to ask Michel if you experienced conflicts in your communities and also how you used to overcome them.
Yes, of course. Conflicts will always happen. The conflict, I think one of the things that I had to learn, and we all had to learn, especially when you're leading a group of people, is understanding that you're always going to have conflict because all of you have different personalities. Now think about it. It was a group of 19 or 18 or 17-year-olds who are all passionate, and then there's just like all this passion that is moving. So yes, of course, you're going to have conflict. And of course, we also had conflict within in the communities. I can tell, I mean, I'll be honest with you, like some of it was this idea of like, oh, why is, but those things, you know, it's like, why is PLP the one that is organizing this when it's commemoration events, when it was supposed to be ARG or others or any other organization? Like, you know, why are you the ones who are organizing this? And we also live in a community that is very suspicious and mistrust, right? So it's like, buriya mufite ngo sha mugiye gukira ngo ibyo ngo ni siyasa, right? Like ngo ni siyasa ngo mugiye kudukirana twe twibereye ngo byose ni imitwe. Yeah, you know, ni imitwe ni biki. And yeah, that is normal. That is normal, you know. Cyangwa umwehe ngo mwebwe ngo muri kurya amafaranga. You know, for a long time people used to say ngo PLP ifite miliyoni muzigera ku ijana kuri konti, and then you look and you're like, that account has never seen 10 million francs. I think the one time the account saw maybe 5 million, we're rich. Never. Ariko nyine all of that hakaza nyine the suspicion, the ngo buri hari ibintu mushakamo cyangwa ni byose ni siyasa cyangwa ngo, you know, ngo byose ni politike cyangwa I was like, well, it's normal. That's the nature of the society we live in, and you just gotta learn to see what you listen to and what you take seriously and then what you just ignore.
Okay, so I think we need to just put in consideration the important things and the rest to just ignore it.
Yes. Oh, totally. That's the only way. That's the only way to move forward. Otherwise, it's just
even words can break it down. So I think as youth, we should just give our ears to what is important and what is not to just ignore. Yeah, so Joshua Morenzi on YouTube, he said, would you please share with us some crazy and happy moments you had in PLP?
Man, that was happy moments. Happy moments where every time the kids that we're paying for, all of them were very young, and it was the first time to go to school. And then when they went to school, and then the happiest moments used to be when you go pick their reports, and then they see you and they just run, and they're so happy because they are called, you know, you go as a parent. That used to be a happy moment. And some crazy moments were one time I was not around, but it was a story that we all know in PLP when these guys were organizing a fundraiser at the Petit Stade. And, you know, they had everything, you know, planned out, and then they had the Petit Stade, they had all of it. And what ended up happening is, I think there was something like maximum 20 people that came at Petit Stade. And when they had planned for thousands, right? And I remember that time, all these guys would sit down and cry. Now, let me tell you, you see Mark, you see Papi, you see all these old guys, Richard, like they will sit down and actually just cry, right? Because they had rented, they had taken a loan for money. You should ask Mark to tell that story. And then randomly somebody called Mark, and then he gave him the money that was actually needed. But all these guys were convinced we are going to jail. We're going to jail, you know? And and then other things is, like, you guys have to understand, can you imagine, we used to have people, like, even now when I look, like Ingrid, Vanessa, all these guys, they would sit in meetings. First of all, they were young, they were short, they were ladies, all of that. So it was like, these guys are sitting in meetings with big guys, and then ukabona Ingrid akavuga ngo no muri kubeshi. I was like, these people they're crazy. But yeah, so it used to be, man. It's like I can't think on top of my head, but there's so many stories. They used to do many crazy things, and it's a whole lot of interesting. If you look at them, many of the guys that you see now, the Bruce Inore, the Paul and Phil, they were skinny, small guys like that, 14, 15, 16. Now they've become big people. They're like, wow. this is interesting. This is really interesting.
Okay, so you have talked about crazy moments that were made by other people. So you never had any crazy moment that was created by you?
Created by no, I was always nice. It's like no,
Oh,
it's very,
really?
yeah. Let me tell you, like for me it was another crazy story I remember actually is Yannick. Yannick to now you see him now, he goes speak in many different places. Yannick, I remember the first time he was the head of our children's rights program. And then they called him, then we called him, they're like, Yannick, go and make a speech at an event we had done. Yannick went and made a speech. You know, when he was speaking English, everyone's like, eh. And then he goes, yes, if they say children's rights is rights, is it true? We're like, And then no one know, like we couldn't figure out if it's true, as in Ichobo, like it's truth, like what do you mean?
Yeah.
And it used to be like funny stuff. But yeah, no, for me, no, I was a more quiet, very, 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 didn't do anything crazy.
You never even created any other song in pure as you used to like to create songs.
happy. No. I'd given up singing. Gave it up. Now it's just everything else except that. Except that.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. So Joshua Murenzi on Twitter also said, who is your role model and where do you get the inspiration?
Who's my role model?
Yes.
I don't know. So the weird thing is like the people that I admire might not be famous, right? My role model, for example, for me as a person is a man that I know is called Alex Lukashaza. And the reason I love him is he's the kind of man that I want to become. He's very generous. He is he he's a person who challenges you and makes you think harder, but he's also so generous. Like I've never met a person as generous as him, right? And part of the reasons to why I decided to have a role model of someone who I know I've lived with is that sometimes your role models are not all that. They're good from far. But when you get close, you're not inspired. But Alex, I love him and I admire him. Where does my inspiration come from? I'll be lying if I didn't say that mine is a deeply rooted belief in God, that God calls us to live a life of service, but then also because I honestly feel like I got a vision when in 2007 when I got saved, and one of the first books that I read was Purpose Driven Life, right? And by Rick Warren. And when I read that book, I remember I prayed and I said, God, I want my life to matter. I want you to use my life to do amazing things. And all of these things, the reasons, honestly, that I've remained, because to tell you the truth, I've remained. It's been more than 15 years now, 14, 15 years, right? And I've remained and I'm still doing, I'm still excited about it. I'm sure everyone is going to be like, this guy speaks a lot. He's so passionate. Yes, I'm still passionate about it, but it's because I believe that um, it is it is for God's glory in a way, right? Like I do it because I think it's God's service. And it says, the Bible says that what you do unto the least of these, you have done unto me. And it also says, that I always say mine is from Isaiah 61. It says that we rebuilt the ancient ruins, the city devastated for generations, and they will be called ox of righteousness. And why I always say we are an ox of righteousness, the planting of the Lord for the display of his splendor. And for me, mine is to say, I'm going to live a life that gives honor to God, and I'm also going to live a life that makes a difference, that loves people, that serves people, and that opens doors for people. And that's what my inspiration is, and I hope it continues, to be honest.
We also hope to continue because it's really making remarkable things for our youth. Yeah, so Akeliza on Twitter said, what are some challenges you think the youth are facing that PLP can focus on and tackle it?
I think if we were the PLP that we were maybe 15 years ago, I would say is to focus on the challenges of the post-genocide Rwanda. Because part of the issues for our generation was that when we were talking about issues related to genocide, it was always from there's some of our friends and some who were young during the genocide. Majority of them, at least at that time, some were young and some were old enough that they experienced it. But then now comes in a new generation, and this generation didn't experience genocide. So there's no perpetrators and there's no victims in this generation. And the challenge that PLP has to think of, which is what we thought about straight from the beginning, is how do we live together? Like, how do we live together when some, like at least in our generation, we could talk of forgiveness, we can talk of reconciling people, because there were those who killed and there were those who were killed, there were those who really were living under that weight of history. But then now the question that your generation, and I think PLP should think about, is how do we live together? And that living together for me is that those are the questions that we need to ask ourselves. Like, it's not, sometimes we think of these questions of, denial, and those are important. I think it's important to always make sure that we are doing all that work. But it's also a question of the future, right? You know how they say, like, remember, I think it's remember, renew, and another one, and unite, right? So that part for me is like the remembering part is important, and I think we should do that. Although in this generation, there's other questions of like, how do you remember something you didn't experience, right? And because you tell young people, oh, remember, it's like, remember what? They didn't see, they were not alive. But then also beyond that remembering, how do we then move to the future and say, how do we then craft a new path? Because sometimes if we are not careful as PLP, we'll be answering questions of the past, right? And those questions of the past are questions of, of reconciliation in that sense. The new one, the new generation that is coming, those are different questions that need to be answered. And for me, I think that's the biggest challenge. If PLP is able to do that, we can look back, 60 years from now and say there's something amazing that was done. And amazing not only here in Rwanda, but it will be an amazing testament to everyone else. And that's the challenge, that's the questions of the future. Like, I think we should not miss those. And that's where I think PLP will be most effective.
Okay, thank you for mentioning that challenge. As PLP, we shall try to make sure we solve that challenge. Yeah, so as we're getting to an ending, there's some few questions that I also had. We saw that you worked in Aegis and for like 3 years. Did it hinder your contribution to other activities you had, like PLP or IDebate, or you were able to balance it?
No, definitely. It was still all within the same thing. It didn't hinder. It allowed me to have also some money to also sponsor all the things that I was doing. So yes, it worked well. But also part of it is like the weirdly enough, when I was in secondary, when I was in S5 in 2006, I did a project called Walk for Survivors, and we were raising money for the memorial because they were going to build a program, an education program, at the memorial. And at that time, we raised about $3,000. And with just the way life happens, about 5 to 6 years later, I was one of the managers for that program, right? So it's just the interesting things of life, But it was a good. The people that I worked with were people that I respect a lot and people that I knew, I had known for a long time. And I did my internship after senior 6. I did my internship at the memorial, so it was also so it wasn't new for me per se.
Okay, that's really amazing. So another question I had, you studied international studies for your bachelor degree. Some people study things and they really help them with other activities they do. Or like, was that the same case with you, or it was like a passion to do the rest, the IDebate, even to to contribute in PLP, or it was related to what you studied?
Honestly, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to study, because I studied because I thought if I do international studies, I'm going to work at the UN. And then I get in the middle of it, I don't like it. I really don't like it. I was just like, but I don't have that kind of money, I will just finish. So I just went and I finished. And but I didn't like it when I was doing it, but I understood later on. It made me understand the way power works. It made me understand relations and international relations and some ideas. So yeah, I'm grateful for that. I just didn't like it much. But yeah, I think sometimes school is just school, man. Like sometimes you just go to school, finish school, and then you figure out life. Like yes, yeah, and I'm a person who loves to study a lot, so I'm constantly studying. So for me, school is just school. Like
Okay.
I think it's too much weight to think you're gonna go and study and then that's no. You some of us are lucky. Some will study what they want. Others will just study for the sake of studying. So you just do it.
Okay, so there are actually other questions that I just sent to me. So from Emi Abayo on Twitter, he asked, who is your favorite debate person between Joshua and Natasha Gasaro and Nedge?
I shall not answer that question because that is going to create more tension for me. So I'll just say all of the above. All of the above.
Okay, that's amazing. So anyways, thank you for allowing us to join us our conversation today. We want to thank everyone who has been with us till now. We really had a good conversation with you. We had a lot of questions. Now even it's past time, but thank you for being with us. So we hope we shall see you guys for the next Sunday chat. And remember to give us any feedback you want, any person you're suggesting we call upon in our different social medias. Mwakoze cyane kubana natwe muri iyi Sunday chat y'uyu munsi, aho twabanye n'umuyobozi Jean-Michel Habineza. Ubu turizeye ko tuzabona mu yindi Sunday chat yacu uzaba icyumweru gitaha. Mwakoze cyane, mugire ijoro ryiza. Good night. Thank you, sir, for being with us today. And you're most welcome for other Sunday chats. We hope if we call you again, you shall respond to us very well.
Yeah, thank you a lot to Rita, and thank you to everyone in PLP. I mean, keep doing what you're doing. And Rita, continue. That was a great interview. I hope you continue. I don't know if you have plans to be journalists, but whichever way, is just do what you gotta do. But yeah, this was great. And yeah, thank you everyone who tuned in.
Yeah, but before you go, could you give us like a closing remark or anything you could tell them?
Yes, I'll tell them PLP was probably the best thing that has happened in my life, and a lot of great things have happened. And the reason why it was is because it taught me, it changed my mentality. It made me see that anything is possible. And part of it is that because of PLP, no one can tell me any excuse. Because if we were able to build something like that from scratch, then everything else is possible. So every young person in PLP, do it. Will continue doing all the work. Outshine us, please do outshine us. Do better than we did. Multiply, because it gives us pride. Because then it allows us to see that what we built has continued and has been different hands. So thank you, everyone. Just do amazing things and continue doing it. Because years later, you'll be proud of yourself.
Thank you too for inspiring us. You've been a big role model to many different people, so including me. Thank you so much. Yeah, so thank you for everyone. Thank you for coming here, and thank you to everyone who are now with us till the end of this conversation. So good night to everyone. Bonne nuit. Murakoze cyane, mugire ijoro ryiza. Nawe utaha. Murakoze.